Welcome to the Holiday Podcast, where we sit over some freshly baked challah bread every Friday afternoon. I'm your host, Tammy Priest, and it's great to be with you today as we take another look at the intersection of the old and the new. Now, if you're watching the video version of the podcast, you may have noticed that our challah this week isn't anything like the standard braid. It's little pumpkins. I have a challah pumpkin patch. Now, I promise, I'm not a crazy pumpkin spice person. I don't buy pumpkin spice donuts or pumpkin spice cookies or marshmallows or pumpkin spice Kit Kat bars, which apparently is a thing. But I do enjoy a good pumpkin spice candle like this one because it reminds me of Thanksgiving, which I love, and also pumpkin pie. So anyway, a woman I follow on Instagram, Rebecca Lowen, posted a picture of her little pumpkin challah rolls, and I decided to make them. Because looking at these cute little pumpkins, it just makes me happy. And don't we all need some happy right now? The election is just a few days away, and everyone seems to be more anxious and angry than ever. So I have my cute little pumpkin challahs, and I have my pumpkin spice candle. And when I breathe it in, it makes me think of my childhood and helping my grandma cook in the kitchen and all the cousins horsing around together. It seems like there are certain scents that make all of us remember special moments or special people. In one of his proverbs, actually, King Solomon said, "Incense brings joy to the heart." And I think he was onto something. His father, King David, prayed in Psalm 141 that his prayers would be like incense rising up to God. And actually in Revelation, John tells us about his vision of the bowl of incense in heaven, which is the prayers of all the people rising to God. It's really a beautiful visual that our prayers aren't drudgery or a bother to God, but that the words of our mouths and the meditation of our hearts are pleasing to God. And actually, God is pretty clear that incense is special to him. Way back in the wilderness, he actually told Moses to build a golden altar for burning incense in the sanctuary. So let me read some of those instructions to you from Exodus 30. Make an altar of acacia wood for burning incense. Overlay the top and all the sides and the horns with pure gold. Put the altar in front of the curtain that shields the Ark of the Covenant, where I will meet with you. Aaron must burn fragrant incense on the altar every morning when he tends the lamps. He must burn incense again when he lights the lamps at twilight. So incense will burn regularly before the Lord for generations to come. So this incense that God said the priests were supposed to burn, basically 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and it would burn right in front of the veil that closed off the Holy of Holies, where God's Shekinah glory tangibly dwelled above the mercy seat, which was the lid of the Ark of the Covenant. In fact, this is what Zechariah was doing in Luke 1. Remember when the angel of the Lord appeared to him and told him that he and Elizabeth were going to have a baby, John the Baptist. Zechariah was actually offering incense on this golden table just outside the Holy of Holies. So this isn't just an Old Testament stuff. This is part of the Jesus story, the Christmas story. So what was actually in this incense, you might ask? What was it made from? So back to Exodus 30 for God's incense recipe. Take aromatic plant substances, balsam resin, myrrh, sweet onycha root, and bitter galbanum gum. These spices, along with frankincense, all in equal quantities, and make incense blended and perfumed as would an expert perfume maker, salted, pure, and holy. You are to grind up some of it very finely and put it in front of the testimony in the tent of meeting where I will meet with you. You are to regard it as especially holy. You are not to make for your own use any incense like it, with the same composition of ingredients. You are to treat it as holy for Adonai. Whoever makes up any like it to use as perfume is to be cut off from his people. God was super serious about this incense. And it can kind of seem a little arbitrary or over the top, right? Here's the exact recipe and don't you dare use it for anything else. But there's a reason. I mean, there always is a reason with God, right? He's not arbitrary about anything. He's a God of incredible intentionality, even when we can't see it in the moment. Anyway, so we talked about how certain smells remind us of special places or special people. Well, I think that this incense was so important to God because it was the fragrance of a very special person. So I don't know if you caught 3 words in particular when I read God's commands for the incense. Gold altar, myrrh as the first ingredient, frankincense as the last. Gold and frankincense and myrrh. Obviously, this probably reminds you of something. I know I started talking about pumpkin spice today, but just like when I mentioned Zechariah earlier, this incense is all about Christmas. The Magi brought these gifts to Jesus, and each gift spoke something really prophetic about what his life would be like. So gold, it's a beautiful treasure that has always been given to royalty as an expression of honor. Crowns, thrones, and scepters, they're all made of gold. So the Magi's gold pointed to Jesus as king. Then there was frankincense. And frankincense is basically the aroma of the priesthood. Not only did God have the priests burn it in front of the veil 24/7, but he also had them use it for other things like sprinkling on grain offerings and putting with the bread of the presence in the holy place. So the frankincense pointed to Jesus as our priest. And finally, the myrrh. Myrrh has this amazing fragrance, so it makes sense that it was in the incense. And because it smells so good, it was also used for embalming back in ancient times. Myrrh was used in death. The King of Kings and the Priest of Priests was born to die, to be the sacrifice of all sacrifices. Now, we could talk for a really long time about the significance of these gifts that the Magi brought to Jesus that were in the incense. I actually wrote an Advent devotional a while ago, A Star Will Rise, about this if you're interested. I'm in the process of revising it at the moment, but this original edition I think is still out there. Anyway, it's so incredible to me that the Magi's gifts have been coming together every single day for about 1,500 years before Jesus was born. That fragrance filling the sanctuary, pointing to the coming Messiah. And that's why I think the holy incense was that important to God. Why he didn't want people tinkering with it. And the holy incense was a picture of Jesus, whose entire life rose in a pleasing aroma to the Father. And now I love what Paul says to the Corinthians and also to us in 2 Corinthians 2. He says that through us, the Messiah spreads everywhere the fragrance of what it means to know him. Through us, people can know what it means to know Jesus. The fragrance of our presence, of our words, are supposed to be so pleasing that we draw people to know the Messiah. And this really makes me think about something I said when we first started today, that this is a time where there's lots of anxiety and anger in our country. And so really what people need is to know the fragrance of Christ, the fragrance of his kingship, which is better and purer than any earthly leader, because he seeks our good, our flourishing, each one of us, all the time, for eternity. And people need to know the fragrance of his priesthood, that he advocates for every single one of us with love and concern and protection and justice. And of course, to know the fragrance of his sacrifice. And not just that he took death in our place, but that he defeated it on our behalf. And the only way that this most precious fragrance will be pleasing to others is if, like Paul said, it spread through us, that the fragrance of Christ would emanate from us, that the fruits of his Spirit, love and joy and peace and patience and kindness and goodness and faithfulness and gentleness and self-control would emanate from us, would be the aroma that lingers when we leave a room, the aroma that lingers on the other side when we hang up the phone, and the aroma that lingers when we share a post or a tweet. Because the eternal fragrance of redemption and unity in Jesus is greater than anything that we flawed people can come up with. So I pray that in the vein of Solomon's proverb, we would find great joy in the fragrance of Messiah today and always, and that others will be drawn to that joy through the fragrance of our lives, whether it's in person or online. And that everything we offer to God, whether it's the words we share with others or the prayers that we lift up to him, would bring a joyful fragrance. I love God's command about bringing grain offerings in Leviticus 2, because God tells Moses that they should sprinkle some of the incense on it, which reminds me that my offerings to God are covered with the pleasing aroma of that incense that's a picture of Jesus. And I also think means that these little pumpkin spice challahs, grain with a little spice added, are totally kosher in the fullest sense of the word. So now I'm gonna go deliver some of these little pumpkins to some friends. But I look forward to being with you again next Friday, and I pray that we all, in the days between now and then, will leave a pleasing fragrance with our words in a watching world as the election unfolds one way or the other. And that in our stress or whatever we're feeling, we lift all of it up to God, to him, because our prayers are a pleasing aroma to him. In the meantime, for today, I wish you a restful holiday.